To achieve absolute spiritual silence, you have to cut the cord. No family, no worldly possessions, no comforts. Just you, completely removed from the noise of the material world. The monk Sanatan Goswami had done exactly that. He stripped his existence down to the bare minimum, living a quiet, perfectly isolated life. But looking at this diagram of his isolation, you can see the boundary is entirely secure from the outside. The disruption actually comes from inside the circle. The very deity he worshipped was the one breaking his peace. His deity, Thakurji, didn't sit in silent cosmic majesty. Instead, he behaved entirely like a demanding, needy toddler. It turns out you can't escape the physical world when the focus of your meditation is constantly tapping you on the shoulder and asking for a snack. In the beginning, their arrangement was simple. Thakurji was perfectly happy eating dry, plain flatbread, known as tikar. Then came the subtle requests. First, a tiny pinch of salt to go with the bread. A little while later, a request for a bit of clarified butter or ghee. This went on until day 101. After months of this basic routine, Thakurji suddenly dropped a highly specific, multi-step culinary order on the ascetic monk. The demand was strict. Goswami had to go into the local market, fetch a potato, roast it over an open flame, mash it with coarse salt, and serve it as a side dish to the flatbread. We are talking about the supposed architect of the infinite universe, absolutely insisting on a side of mashed root vegetables. For Goswami, running these domestic errands felt like a direct threat to his practice. The grocery lists were actively ruining his ability to reach higher-level spiritual meditation. Finally, the monk snapped. He had reached the absolute end of his patience acting as a divine personal chef. He abandoned his meditation, scooped up the physical idol, and marched straight down the dusty path to the house of Maya, the woman who had previously cared for the deity. He knocked on her door, standing there less like a holy man and more like a frustrated customer trying to return a defective appliance. He told her to take her Chitoro, her foodie god, back immediately. His quiet, sacred hut had been turned into a bustling marketplace. He laid out the trajectory clearly. Today, a roasted potato. Tomorrow, fresh tomatoes. Next week, complex desserts like rabdi. Goswami explained that he had intentionally left his earthly family behind to escape the burden of running a household. Yet here was this deity, forcing him to build a brand new, high-maintenance family right inside his ascetic cell. The irony was complete. The god he had dedicated his entire life to worshipping was now the primary roadblock keeping him from spiritual enlightenment. Having handed over the idol, Goswami turned his back and walked away from Maya's door, confident he had finally secured his total, unbothered isolation. But the physical idol suddenly animated, becoming entirely alive and real right behind him. The deity appeared right at the monk's back and wrapped tightly around his waist in an inescapable hold. Ignoring every single one of the monk's complaints, Thakurji declared that he would never be left behind. If Goswami was staying, he was staying, forever. That physical weight against his back changed the context of the last few months. Every annoying request for salt or ghee was a tether, and now the deity was physically refusing to let go. Which brings us back to that roasted potato. Why would an omnipotent, universe-spanning entity actually need a monk in a mud hut to cook for him? The deity used the roasted potato as an excuse for engagement. It was a specific anchor, forcing the monk to stay present. Those escalating grocery lists were an intentional strategy, pulling Goswami out of a sterile, isolating void into an active, dynamic relationship. Traditional spiritual paths often prioritize a cold, detached renunciation of all things. This philosophy points to something else entirely, a messy, demanding, and inherently playful bond. The ultimate divine connection thrives within the chaotic, playful, and demanding rituals of daily care. Silence is an absence. This kind of devotion is a persistent, loving noise.